When I first heard the theme for this story jam, that song came to my mind. And it's been years since I've heard it, but the reason that it stuck with me is 2 words: sewing machines. As long as I can remember, sewing has been an ever-present element in my life. I grew up in a family where all the women sewed, and I wanted to learn so badly, but there was never enough time, energy, or attention to teach me. So I tucked that desire away. I hid it from myself. I was given a hand sewing needle, some thread, and shown how to tie a knot. And that was it. I had no fabric, I had no support, I had no lessons, so I didn't really do anything with it. And then when I was 9 years old, I was in Girl Scouts, and we were gonna have a fashion show, and we were gonna make clothes to wear in the fashion show and get our sewing badges. And I was so excited, and I went to the fabric store with my grandmother, and I was looking at patterns, and everything I picked out that I wanted to make, she shot it down. And eventually, she chose the pattern, she chose the fabric, and I made these coarse navy blue culottes. And I hated wearing them. I was embarrassed to be wearing them in the fashion show, but I loved making them. And I remember being at that sewing machine with my my scout master, sewing these culottes. And when it was over, it was over. No one asked me how I felt about it. No one asked me if I ever wanted to do it again. So I hid it away. In high school, I drew countless pictures of designs that I wanted to create. And I wanted to be a fashion designer. And when I told my mother I wanted to go to art school, she said, "Why don't you go to tech school and become a graphic designer?" So my drawings were just drawings, and I hid it away again. In college, I took a sewing class, and I was so excited, and I made a dress, and I came home from that class having the experience of getting to use a serger and working with patterns and picking out fabric and creating something that was super special to me. And I told my boyfriend at the time that I wanted to keep sewing, and he said, "It's just not practical. It costs a lot of money. You don't have a sewing machine. Just no." So I hid it away again. But in the years that followed, my grandmother passed away. She left me her sewing machine, and I sort of fumbled through figuring out how to make some things. I made a laundry bag and I made a yoga mat bag, very practical. And I left that boyfriend, which was also really practical. And after I left him, I went on this road trip. And on the road trip, I met all these crazy hippie drifter people, and one of them was this woman who had these incredible patchworked jeans. And I went to her and I asked her if she could show me how she did it. And she said no. And that was it. I was like, no one and nothing will stand in my way ever again of getting the opportunity to learn how to sew, including myself. Because now I'm an adult, and I've been hiding this from myself for too long. So from there, I found a way to start getting opportunities to sew. I started doing costumes for a local theater production, and then I got a job at a vintage clothing store that wanted to take old funky dresses and turn them into tube top dresses. I didn't really have that much experience, but I faked it and I did it. And then I met Jen Jones, who was a local alteration specialist, and she came into the shop one day looking for someone to apprentice. And I said, "That's me." And I went to work with her, and she taught me how to do jean hems and how to do pattern making and how to make clothes from an existing piece of clothing to, new fabric, new everything. And then I started working with her business partner, Tina LaChance, and Tina taught me how to replace zippers on sleeping bags and tents and how to sew patches onto uniforms. And when they were done with me, I started working with Ann Thomas, who was making bridal gowns, and I was doing bridal alterations and helping her to sew dresses. And when she moved, she left me her client base, and I started my own business. And I've had a few hiccups here and there. The pandemic sort of shut things down for me for a while, and I started working for a company that made custom fit t-shirts. And then I started teaching because that little girl wanted so badly to learn how to sew. And I'm not gonna keep that from anybody. So today I'm living my dream, and that dream just gets better when I share it with other people. Thanks.